welcome to the Buddhist Maha Vihara's Dhamma series. This is the first dialogue session that we have opened to the public or the devotees. The earlier three dialogue sessions were actually closed door recordings that we did. Two of them are already online on our YouTube channel. The third one is now being edited, and so today is the fourth. And this is the first time we have three monks who are going to do the dialogue. So let me introduce you. Well, yeah, it's not a dialogue then, it's a trilogue. Yeah. Dialogue in the sense that you're talking to each other. You're not giving a sermon. That's what you meant when you said dialogue sessions. So, but now that there's three of you, yeah, I guess it's a trilogue, Bhante. So, the moderator for this evening is Bhante H Kondanna from New York, Staten Island in New York. Bhante is the Chief Abbot of the Staten Island Buddhist Vihara. He has joined us for a couple of months to be here. He was here for a novitiate program. He assisted us during the novitiate program. He's also done a few talks around KL and also helped in our Dhamma work here at Buddhist Maha Vihara. We have these two distinguished panelists who are going to discuss today's topic, Satipatthana, the universal tool. We have, on furthest left for me, is Bhante Dr. S. Pemaratana. I think everybody knows him. Bhante is the Chief Abbot of the Pittsburgh Buddhist Vihara in the US. And Bhante is a regular contributor, and he helps us regularly, almost annually, on our activities here at the Buddhist Maha Vihara. And of course, we have Bhante Dr. Chandima, also another distinguished monk who has come and helped us many times. In the last year, has been here quite a lot, and almost, I think he's going to complete 6 months, Bhante, I think. Almost 6 months with us in this region and helping to propagate the Dhamma. This evening, where we have Bhante Kondanna who will moderate this evening session. Bhante?
Yes. Thank you, Brother Leslie. Venerable Theras and Bhikkhuni and dear friends of Dhamma. I'm very happy to be here this evening moderating this event. It's a dialogue, trialogue. What we see in this flyer, when I look at it, mindfulness. But we do discuss a Satipatthana, a universal tool, as a universal tool. Of course, these days we hear around the world, Bhante, everybody in every part of the world, they talk about mindfulness. It has become a newly popular word. So many teachers, so many traditions, but even from childhood, preschoolers to highest levels, you can hear that they talk about this. I know because preschoolers, I have one student who is teacher. Every morning she has a permission to do meditation, mindfulness meditation in the classroom. Normally, state and religion is separated. But in America, there are places who has given the permission to do so. And also you see here, and you hear sometimes, and one of the monks is training these police officers for the Canadian government. We hear that too. What are they training? Mindfulness. So, but we don't know if they're really going with the basic source, or if they know where it's coming from. We don't know. But in reality, therefore, since there could be a lot of misunderstandings, they don't know what it is. So what we are discussing here today is about where it came from, what is this word originally came from. We know nothing else that came from Buddha's teaching, Satipatthana. So, of course, mindfulness. Even in English language, there could be some bearing in this, meanings for this. So mind your head, mind your step. In that sense, they are using it. So, but however, it has, I do not know if it is really giving the interpretation or the meaning which Buddha meant. You know, since we are coming from that old tradition, 25 and 100 years before, Buddha brought this into the world as an important part of our practice, Dhamma practice. He was here to guide us in finding the peace within, and to get into that. Bhante, Dr. Pemaratana, I like to hear your interpretation, how we explain this Buddha's teaching, because he was guiding us in practicing in everyday life. It's as a part of everyday life, and continue in daily practice. I think that is one of the meanings that we are trying to search for. How do you say this one? How do you I know there are maybe a couple of friends who know this in our audience, but they may not have a clear picture of this.
Thank you, Bhante, for that introduction. Yes, I think as we know, the mindfulness has become such a popular concept and a practice in many parts of the world, in many different fields. But I think what Bhante is suggesting us, how we can understand the mindfulness from the original Buddhist source. So the Satipatthana, the Sutta, discourse on this establishment or foundation of mindfulness, how we understand the concept of Sati, actually the original word,
Sati,
in the Buddhist context. Yeah, of course, mindfulness can be found in many other traditions and many other spiritual and even secular traditions, but it is important for us to understand how exactly the Buddha has explained this. Generally, whenever we hear the term mindfulness, we focus more on the interpretation of present moment awareness. Right, Bhante? Usually, if you get a normal mindfulness, can someone has any phone with you? Can you Google or ask AI, what is mindfulness? And see what is the definition it is found there. Usually, it will say that, present moment awareness, right, Bhante, paying attention to the present moment. Sometimes they say non-judgmentally. So this is common understanding of the concept mindfulness. So the Pali word sati is usually translated as mindfulness, and definitely that term contains that mindfulness, meaning of mindfulness too. But actually in the Buddhist context, it is a little bit broader than simply mindfulness. It's not simply paying attention to the present moment, although it can be an important part of it. So how we understand mindfulness, let's say sati in the Buddhist context, is actually, we pay attention, but not to anything around us, actually mainly paying attention inward. So you can pay attention to the flower in front of you, and even a cat can pay attention to the mouse in front of the cat. And maybe a sniper can pay attention to his target. So it can be maybe on mindfulness alone. But the Buddhist concept of sati is actually paying attention inward. So it's paying attention inward, but also paying attention with a specific attitude. A specific attitude, mainly with an aim to understand what is wholesome or skillful or useful or healthy, and what is not wholesome, unskillful or unhealthy. So there is definitely a discernment. There's definitely, you start with non-judgmental approach, but at the end you make a choice whether you want to continue that state of the mind, whether you want to continue that thoughts or not. So therefore, the Buddhist understanding of mindfulness is actually purposefully paying attention inward, and then making proper choices. And Bhante Chandima will explain later, the term Sati also has the element, the meaning of memory too, remembering too. So it's more like, it has an element of memory. It's not always only on the present moment. It's mainly remembering to pay attention to. Remembering also the main teachings, remembering and even using our past experiences as a wisdom, as guidelines to select, to decide whether this line of thinking is going to benefit me or not. Whether this way of reacting to the situation were similar reactions helpful to me or not. So one good example will be actually Buddha's simile of a gatekeeper. We will discuss it later. So Buddha give a simile of a gatekeeper to understand the real function of Sati. Maybe you may have experienced that some people live in a gated community. Right? In the gated community, you have a gatekeeper, right? When your car comes, right, and that gatekeeper has to have knowledge whether this car belongs to the community here or is it a stranger. So in the similar way, at the ancient time in the cities, in fortress, there was a gatekeeper, and who was aware, knowledgeable about the people living inside, and people often deliver goods, and people who are outside. So he has to be intelligent, wise, and diligent. So paying attention to, of course, incoming experiences, but and being diligent and using the prior knowledge and prior understanding to decide whether it is something to come in, whether it's okay to entertain or whether it's something we need to abandon. So therefore, Bhante, so the Buddhist understanding of Sati is beyond mindfulness.
But Bhante, would you mind to get into the Satipatthana, because that is the discourse that we are want to. This is the base. So in the Satipatthana Sutta, we talk about fourfold mindfulness.
Exactly.
Satipatthana.
4 areas.
4 areas. So
Yes,
I think that is not normally they do not discuss.
Yes. Yeah, thank you, Bhante, for reminding that. So Buddhist understanding of Sati, let's say mindfulness, is not simply mindful of anything, actually being mindful of basic 4 areas, which is the body, mindfulness of the body, let's say contemplation of the body,
right,
and the contemplation of Vedana, we can call it sensations or feelings, mainly like sensations, and then mindfulness of the status of the mind, general status of the mind, and then mindfulness of the contemplation of Dhamma, which can have a broader meaning, but in this context, it could mean mental qualities, the contents of the mind. So those are the 4 areas that we are trained to be mindful of. More like, it's basically Bhante paying attention to the body and mind.
Yes. Basically, it's how that I think many of you have been participating in these retreats here or in this area and saying that mindfulness practice. We do retreat on Satipatthana, establishing Satipatthana. So doing so, what do we do? What are we doing? I think Bhante, Dr. Chandima can explain that. In the sutra it says, Ekayano ayang bhikkhave maggo sattana visuddhya. There's only one way, or this is a direct way for us to practice. So is that so? And how does it go? Maybe our audience, they may like to hear that.
Thank you, Bhante Kondanna Thera. So thank you, Bhante Pemaratana. Good evening, Dhamma friends, everybody. I think the question starts at a point of understanding the Pali word called Satipatthana. As we understand, mindfulness, the Western mindfulness, is the minimalist approach to this process. As Bhante mentioned, becoming a non-judgmental observer is the minimalist approach to get into this so-called practice. But as Bhante mentioned, the ethical grounds are missing in that practice to a certain, more or less. So that's why we have to set boundaries in learning this subject, especially I would say confining this, the discourse onto a Pali context. Now, as you can see, the word Satipatthana, where does it fit in our practice? This is the first place that we have to find out. This fits in the overall Noble Eightfold Path as the seventh factor. Now, Bhante asked me the question, when the Satipatthana, both Satipatthana suttas mention that ekayano ayam bhikkhave maggo sattanang visuddhiya, soka pariddavanang samatikkamaya, dukkha domanassanang attangamaya, nyayasa adhigamaya, so and so forth, then we have a certain doubt why, given that we understand the Noble Eightfold Path is the only solo practice in tapping on to Nibbana, why then Satipatthana suttas mention that this is the direct path, one way towards the Sambodhi, or I would say enlightenment. Actually, as you can see, the explanation that goes by Nyayasa Adhigamaya. Nyaya means supportive for the Noble Eightfold Path. This means there is no conflict between Satipatthana practice and the Noble Eightfold Path. So when somebody starts the Dhamma practice from Yoniso Manasikara, that person is easily going on to the practice of Sammaditthi, Samma Sankappa, Samma Vacha, Samma Kamman, Samma Ajiva, Samma Vayama, Samma Sati, Samma Samadhi. Let me show you something so that it might give us some clear thoughts. All right. This flyer was made based on the information from the Mahachattarisaka Sutta, which is Majjhima Nikaya 117. This is the most exquisite, elaborative sutta about the Noble Eightfold Path. You can see that Samma Sati, now Satipatthanas come under Samma Sati. So I would say mindfulness is everywhere, but right mindfulness is hardly anywhere.
Yes.
This is how
There's a distinction between mindfulness and right mindfulness.
we could take as such. So now we are getting onto the bottom of the subject. Now you can see in this flyer, Samma Sati, right mindfulness, plays two roles. One as a gradual factor on the path. On the other hand, you can see every path factor is supported by three supportive path factors. Sammaditthi, right view, Samma Vayama, right effort, right mindfulness, that means Samma Sati. That means in order for you to practice right view, you have to separate out what is right view, what is wrong view, what is Sammaditthi, what is Miccha Ditthi. Then just because you separate out these two, it does not go to the next level. Then you need a certain virya, Vayama. Even Vayama alone is not enough. Then you need right mindfulness. That is why the word Ekayano mentions that this is the only path. That means Samma Sati blends with all the path factors. On one side, on the other hand, it is a greater practice that comes at the level of seven path factor.
So you mean
Yes.
do you mean that right mindfulness is the overall principle of the whole Noble Eightfold Path? Like it guides the right Noble Eightfold Path?
Well, three of them, right view, right effort, right mindfulness. But out of three, right mindfulness plays a bigger role because it is like a hostage situation. You are the negotiator. You are under hostage.
Oh.
So you have to negotiate.
Okay.
So there are people who are trying to, keep blackmailing you.
Yeah.
But you have to get out of the room.
Okay.
So you have to know the right timing.
Okay.
So when akusalas come, when kusalas come, you have to know this is akusala, this is kusala. So I think out of these three, right mindfulness plays the bigger role, definitely. And one more thing, the word Satipatthana has two interpretations, Sati Upatthana and Satipatthana. I think we can discuss that
Right.
after Bhante asks questions.
I think for their audience benefit, I like to share that the basic sutta, what we call, I think some of you may know already. Satipatthana Sutta is coming, as Bhante mentioned, in the Digha Nikaya, or the long length discourses among them, and also Maha Satipatthana, and also in the Majjhima Nikaya, number 10 discourse, there's also Satipatthana Sutta, and also you may find that in Samyutta Nikaya too. There's Satipatthana Samyutta in the kindred saying, as if you take the translator. So any of these places we can see that. That is important in the Buddha's teaching, because he was encouraging us to practice, especially for addressing monks and the nuns. He was encouraging us to go and practice it. So he himself, what he did. And also, I find this is not only in the Buddhist teaching. The practice of meditation came from even prior to that. Because, yogis were there. And as a truth seeker, Buddha, before he becoming Buddha, he also practiced. And he went into jhanic states, jhana practice. I think you heard, many of you have heard. And he did say, in the Noble Quest, he says, he was going first, second, third jhanas and up to 9 jhanas. So he did practice all those things, but he did not continue to, encourage and give them practice. That is because I believe there are some other, as Bhante mentioned, finding the, what we call, right mindfulness, that he was guiding, and he took what is needed. And then Buddha saw that which is important here, not to go into that ecstasies, which the other people misunderstood, I believe, other traditions. And therefore he picked what he needed to see, but calm mind can see the reality. So in that sense, I like to ask Venerable Dr. Chandima to elaborate a little bit more on that, because he was, guiding us. There was a twist in the Buddha's teaching, that something very important to see.
Yeah, interesting. Now, I will start answering that question from a very famous Pali stanza that you see in the Ratana Sutta. Yam Buddha setto parivanna e suching samadhimanang tarikanyama. Yam Buddha setto parivanna. The Buddha has extolled, praised about the samadhi, which is not rupavachara, neither rupavachara nor arupavachara. Anantarika samadhi. There are 2 types of concentration that you will attain after samma sati or just sati. We call it material samadhi, immaterial samadhi. But the Buddha's thought is that we have to go to a non-terminal samadhi. We call it anantarika, not antarika samadhi. So the Ratana Sutta says, extolling about the Dhamma, the Buddha said that people have to approach a samadhi that is beyond rupavachara, arupa, which means beyond jhanas. You might be a jhana craver, you might be a jhana lover, jhana enjoyer, but you have to hit going beyond jhanas. Your starting point may be jhanas, it's good. But halfway, maybe at a certain point, you are moving to it. Now let me pick up the Noble Eightfold Path to answer that too. Have you ever heard this Noble Eightfold Path has a wrong version? Samma Sati, Miccha Sati. Samma Samadhi, Miccha Samadhi. If Samadhi is good, how come there is a wrong Samadhi? Right? So we have to think about. As Bhante said, the Hindu practice of jhana was just to feel the bliss of mind. The Buddha says, just feeling the bliss of mind does not only take you to the rest, especially to Nibbana. So the Buddha said about Samma Samadhi that when someone only practices jhana without the focus of the Samma Ditti, Samma Sankappa, Samma Vacha, Kammanta, Aji, Vayama, Sati. You only practice it just to gain a jhana. Without that previous focus, then that person is going to practice Miccha Samadhi. Now, as you can see, every path factor here must be practiced along with Samma Ditti, Samma Vayama, Samma Sati. So when you go to practice Samma Samadhi, at that point, you must practice Samma Samadhi with right view. Right view definitely brings you to the Nibbanic thoughts. That means you are starting with withdrawing of the 5 hindrances, but your focus one day is to tap into Vipassana and then to attain Nibbana. So that is how we take the Hindu practice, Hindu Samadhi, a mere practice of jhanas without this previous focus. No focus about the Nibbana. If you go to see right view, it's mainly about the Nibbanic path. So practicing jhanas without a focus of the rest of the Noble Eightfold Path practice is a wrong samadhi. But practicing jhanas with the focus of the rest of the 7 is Samma Samadhi. That jhana practice is good, helpful. That will take you to the rest of the samadhi level, which we call parikamma, upachara, appana samadhi, which are attakata based samadhi, but it will help. So the difference between Hindu jhana and the Buddhist jhana is someone from a Buddhist background is going to work with the jhanas with the focus of, with the practice of the Noble Eightfold Path. So then that person practices jhana, having practiced the rest of the previous path factors and aiming to go beyond the jhanic states, as Bhante said, first, second, third, fourth. Maybe at that point she might shift onto Vipassana.
Jhana is not the end by itself, it's the means.
If it is the end, that is Hindu Samadhi.
Yes, it's a means to an end. You got an end.
Yes.
It's the wisdom.
Yes, it could be a starter to go to the path. Some people don't need to practice jhana. We call them panya vimuttas. They directly go to Vipassana. But most of us need jhanas to pacify, to practice some samatha. Does it make sense?
Yes. The reason behind that for me to ask that question was in the most of the practitioners. It could be in the West, it could be here. So many of them maybe do not have a clear picture what is this meditation is for. So without having that clear picture, they talk about jhana. So some of the teachers or whoever instructors, they are guiding you to get jhanic state. So then you think as audience who are in the audience maybe thinking it's something important for us to have it. And maybe that we all can have it, so I don't have it. So big fuss I hear sometimes among the practitioners groups. So sometimes they do ask, Bhante, are you in jhanic state? So without having proper understanding, this kind of confusion is there. So that is something that had before, as a truth seeker, Buddha did search for. Because he wanted to find it by himself, and at least when he went out, so he met 2 teachers, Alara Kalama and Uddakarama. So from them he learned. He did practice. He went, he experimented, he knew what. Then easily he could refuse those things and get into what he wanted. So what he was, guiding us. Buddha is coming to this world for what purpose? To teach us this about Nibbana. Of course, that does not mean that we cannot use it nowadays for our daily purposes. Let's get into that later on. But I like to, I think Bhante may have the sutta. So in if we get into the sutta, Satipatthana Sutta, we can see that there are certain framework of, what he did. So, right, certain order is there. So Buddha gradually guiding us, the practitioners, from his followers into that, and encouraging him to see what I have seen, you can see it. So therefore, he was encouraging his followers, his practitioners. So would you mind to explain a little bit that order? What was he trying to share with us?
Yes, Bhante. So when Buddha explained these 4 foundations of mindfulness, so he mentioned about 4 areas that we should pay attention to when we turn inward. So starting with body, and then sensations, and then general status of the mind, and then mental qualities. So when you look at these, 4 areas, this order has a big significance, because when we turn our attention inward, what we first catch, what we first can capture with our inward attention is our body. It would be the easiest thing to feel and catch. Our posture, and then our movements, and of course our breath. If you pay a little bit more close attention, or different parts, anatomical parts of the body. So in the section on Kayanupassana, the contemplation of the body, Buddha explained about these different aspects of the body. So when you turn attention inward, for the practitioner, for a beginner, the easier base, the easier area that he can easily catch would be the body. We can easily feel the posture and movement, and then gradually you can go into the breath and other parts of the body. And then then the next one requires a little bit more mastery, more practice, is going a little bit deeper, to catch sensations will be the second level of our mastery. So when you pay a little bit more close attention, you can go beyond the body, and then you start to feel the Vedana, which is actually in between body and mind. You need like a bodily organism to have sensations, and you need it's a function of the mental process. So the next one will be the feelings, and what we call Vedana. And then the next level requires it's more like going a little bit deeper and deeper into our own body and mind, our own existence. Starting with the body and moving a little bit inside, and then you catch the sensations. And then if you go a little bit more inside, and you'll be able to feel your general status of the mind. So we in the contemplation of mind, which is the chitta, Buddha has explained there are different status of our mind. Sometimes my mind would be full of lust. Sometimes it can be not full of lust, no lust. Sometimes it's full of anger, and sometimes no anger. So in that way, Buddha has explained about 16 different types, different general overall quality status of our mind. So it's more like a mood. We get different moods in different days, right? Sometimes concentrated, sometimes all scattered. Sometimes it's very narrow, sometimes expanded. So it's like a different mood, different moods of the mind. So, and then we will be able to catch that. And then if you little bit go closer, a little bit closer, and then maybe more penetrative, then you'll be able to even catch the specific mental qualities that will give rise to that overall status of the mind. Specific mental qualities could be one of the hindrances, could be wholesome qualities, and so there are different qualities. So basically 5 hindrances, or maybe the wholesome one like 7 factors of enlightenment, and maybe your faculties, your indriyas. So it will be more specific contents of the mind. So I can see, Bhante, there's in this order, there's the gradual going deepening of understanding more and more. And so definitely there's an interesting order in this 4 foundations of mindfulness.
I think I like to, maybe they have heard, I'm sure that some of them might have read the Satipatthana Sutta, and they do practice in the retreats. Sometimes maybe metta, or sometimes like Brahma Vihara meditation, sometimes Satipatthana meditation, if they had done. So I like to read it from the Sutta, just a small portion of that. So Breathing in long, he discerns, I am breathing long. Breathing out long, he discerns, I am breathing out long. Breathing in short, discerns, I am breathing in short. Breathing out short, he discerns, I am breathing out short. I will breathe in calming bodily fabrications. He trains himself, I will breathe out calming bodily fabrications, just as a skilled turner or his apprentice, when making long turn, discerns, I am making long turns. Likewise, he's giving even a simile, he's giving what we do. Maybe Bhante can explain a little bit more, because this is something that they do practice, focusing on breath. They do always practice meditations. So therefore, if they can have a better picture of it, so maybe you can guide them, help them, for them to understand. But this is not only about breathing, but breathing is the only part that they touch.
Yeah, the one way to contemplate the body is pay attention to our breath. So in this sutta, there are 4 ways that I explain how we can pay attention to breath. It's more like a gradual stage of our breathing meditation. So in this case, there are 4 stages are mentioned. But if you want to continue along that breathing meditation, there are more stages. Maybe Bhante Chandima can explain them a little bit later. So here, what is really interesting, at the beginning, Buddha said that first, you mindfully breathe in and out. It means that you let the breath occur, and then you discern when the breathing in is happening, and you discern when the breathing out is happening. You simply notice these 2 different sensations of this, interrelated 2 different experiences. And then next one will be paying attention to the length. Right, Bhante is paying attention to the length. Yeah, so sometimes we will have longer breath, sometimes we have shorter breath based on, sometimes we have different patterns of breathing, but also based on our bodily needs at that time. So what is important in the Buddhist practice of breathing meditation, Bhante, is let the natural breath to occur, or let the body to breathe, and then our job is to discern it, right? And then pajanati, right? That's a Pali word, Bhante, right? Digangva asasanto digang asasamiti pajanati. So our role is to discern it. Let the body to do its job, and then we discern it. So it's a length. First is the length, and then actually expanding that awareness to the whole process of the breathing, not only paying attention to it's more deeper level, not only to the length, but actually paying attention to the whole process of breathing, because the process is quite larger than we usually feel at the beginning. At the beginning, you will only feel some touch sensation of the air, maybe some movement of the body. But when the more we pay attention, you begin to see the whole process of the breathing, which is internal breathing is such so many organs are involved in that. And we have the beginning of the in-breath, then flow of the in-breath, and then end of the in-breath, and turning the in-breath into out-breath. And it's a long process. You gradually pay attention to the whole process. We call whole body breath. But Bhante, the last one has a different term. So it's not the last one, which is like calming down the bodily fabrication, and that one is called sikkati. Right, Bhante? It's not pajanati. It is sikkati. So there, the earlier stages, you simply discern the natural process. But when it comes to the 4th one, actually you purposely maybe kind of direct yourself to train, means to calm our breath. So making our breath calmer as possible. So at the initial, maybe you have having heavy breaths, your body needs more breath, you're having other, physical, mental, needs. And so it looks like we are gradually moving from a coarse, gross breath and noticing the breath. And as a result of noticing, definitely there will be a softening of the breath. but the last stage has some kind of direction from us. So it's not simply discerning, but actually try to purposely calm our breath as much as possible, that we find some composure, that we can move to the other stages. Yes, Bhante.
And calming this also, it's, then as a progress made, says externally and internally. We do it internal, and also we do that externally. So it says here in this way, remains focused internally on the body in and of itself, or externally on the body in and of itself, or both internally and externally on the body and of itself. I believe Dr. Chandima, Ajatnava kaya kayanupassī vihati, bahiddhava kaya kayanupassī vihati.
Bhante, I think before I answer that question, just to get back on the track, I think we miss out on one thing. We did not discuss the purpose of Satipatthana. Why do we practice Satipatthana before we go into the different practices? So I might show you this. We discussed this, the importance of Satipatthana, ekayanoyam bhikkhave. All right. This is the phrase that you see at the beginning of both Satipatthana suttas. Even the 104 suttas in the Satipatthana Sangyutta. There's a Sangyutta, the 47 Sangyutta of the Satipatthana, Sangyutta Nikaya, which has 104 sutras. You can see this. Katame chattaro Satipatthanas. Ida bhikkhave bhikkhu kāye kāyānupassī viharati ātāpi sampajāno satimā vinaya loke abhijjā domanassa vedanās vedananupassī chitte chittanupassī dhamme dhammanupassī. This shows the purpose of the Satipatthanas, which you practice at the Samma Sati, right mindful, not mindfulness, right mindfulness. Now we can see someone here, a monk, you could say anybody, someone is going to practice what you call the first Satipatthana, Kayanupassana, just to the extent of overcoming abhijja and domanassa. Now all Satipatthanas are being practiced just to the extent necessary to overcome abhijja and domanassa. So then,
What is abhijja?
yeah, I'm coming over there. All right. So now this is the purpose of any Satipatthana, whether that be a Kayanupassana Satipatthana, breath meditation, or Iriyapata, posture meditation, Sampajanya, full awareness meditation, then Patikkula Manasikara, the looking at the those places of the body, and then Navasivatika, 9 channel grounds of the what you call dead body. And if you go to Vedana, there are 9 types of Vedana. As you can see, this is very interesting. Under the Vedananupassana, you will see Buddha has not even looked at the affective quality of the feeling. I mean, the feeling of good, feeling of bad, feeling of neutral. He has also looked at the ethical side of the feeling. How do we look at it? Niramisa Vedana. That means the feelings that are arising out of the nekkhamma, renunciation. Now the first one, Gehasita Vedana. That means feelings that are coming out of the enjoyment of the 6 pleasures. So that means on one side he has looked at the affective quality of the feeling that you are practicing, if you are practicing Vedananupassana, and also he has looked at the ethical aspect of the feeling. And then if you go to then Chittanupassana, as Bhante said, there are 16 thoughts. They are very interesting. They carry very interesting dimensions. Like if you say Sankitta Chitta could be translated as scattered thought. But the true meaning is a Chitta with Tinamitta. A lazy chitta, that your mental body, your chittas are lazy, your chetasikas are lazy. If you see Vikitta chitta, that is a chitta bothered by the uddacha, restless thought. If you see Mahaggata Chitta, that is a Chitta someone gains by clearly practicing Rupavachara, Arupavachara jhanas. Amahaggata Chitta means a Kamavachara Chitta. That anybody that when we do good things, we are having that. And if you go to what you call Vimutta Chitta, you might see Vimutta means the enlightenment. Actually, Vimutta means there are three types of removal of the defilements. Tadanga, Vikamba, Samuchcheda. Tadanga means a temporary withdrawal of your mind. You do that in the jhanas. Vikambana means for a certain time. Maybe you are in a jhanic state for some time. Samuchcheda is not here. In order to come to Samuchcheda, you have to attain Nibbana. And when you go to Dhammanupassana, as Bhante said, the first is the Nivarana. You will work with the 5 hindrances for the jhanas. Then you are working with the, what you call the subjective experience of your life. What you call Khandhas and Ayatanas. Then you are again picking up Bojjhangas and the Arya Satchas. So these are connected. So before I jump onto this Abhijjadomanassa, let me tell you, these Satipatthanas are meant for someone. It is also meant for certain individual. Now the first Satipatthana, we call it, it is meant for a craver, someone who has lots of craving. We call it a slow craver, whose craving is little slow. So working towards with one of these practices, including breath. And for a quick craver, that person is going to work on the Vedananupassana. Because people who get instant craving, that mostly comes from a unreal understanding about the feeling. So it's a quick craver. The rest of the two are meant for the intellectually speculative people, theorizers. Slow theorizer is going to pick up Chittanupassana, and then the quick theorizer is going to theorize very fast, like philosophers, those kind of folks, they pick up Dhammanupassana. I mean, this is how we can see a similarity. Now we are coming back to this Abhijjadomanassa, the purpose of Satipatthana. Abhijja means, as you know, covetousness. How do we understand covetousness? This is the extreme greed. Now we have a word called lobha, and then this is abhijja, the full version of lobha. I would say a strong version of lobha is abhijja. That means greed. At the end is greed. So all the Satipatthanas which you are practicing should lead to at least to a temporary disenchantment, temporary removal of the lobha. Now this is covetousness. And then domanassa, as you can see, it is what you call dosa. That means abhijja. Here you can see the translation. Grief about what? Loke abhijja doma. What kind of world is this? Is this the world that we have continents? This is the internal world. This is the internal world. So you are going to overcome abhijja, covetousness, extreme greed, and grief in regard to your internal, your mental body. Now let me give another example. If you remember Rohitassa Sutta Anguttara Nikaya, in this sutta there is a deva called Rohitassa. So he approached the Buddha. He said to the Buddha, Bhante, I am a deva now. I did something interesting in my past life. I wanted to go to the end of this universe. So without eating and doing other things, I kept going on to finding the end of the universe. But halfway of the journey, I passed away. So his journey is emphasized. His one foot is in the Eastern Ocean, the other foot is in the Western Ocean. It looks like the Pacific and Atlantic, right? On the both sides.
He can move very fast.
Move very fast. But he died halfway. Without reaching the end, he passed away. Then the Buddha said, this is a useless journey. My loka is not finding the end of the universe. You have to find the true world. That is what you call by this what you call the one fathom body, where I establish dukkha arya satya, dukkha samudaya arya satya, dukkha nirodha arya satya. That means the loka here means, in terms of the expectation of the Satipatthana practice, where you going to overcome your abhijja and domanassa, is your internal world. This is the internal world. When somebody passes away, your internal world collapses. So you are going to overcome avijja and domanassa. That is why you are practicing Satipatthanas. Moving back to the question that Bhante asked, Ajjatta Bahitta. Now, Satipatthana suttas, each practice has two sections. If you take, now how many practices are there in Satipatthana Sutta? Let me show you. 23 practices. Kayanupassana has 14, Vedananupassana has 3, Chittanupassana is taken as 1, and then Dhammanupassana has 5. Each of these Satipatthana exercise, I would say exercise, carries 2 sections. Even if you take, as Bhante asked, Anapanasati part, you can see the first section is about, we call it definition, how to practice it. And then the second section is refrain. I would say Samatha part and Vipassana part. In the first section, you are trying to...
Can you go to the refrain? Can you go to the section?
Yeah, I will show you. Definition part. So each exercise, those exercises, as you can see here, 23 exercises, have definition part, which is given as Atapi, Sampajano, Satima, Vineloke, Abhijja, Domanassa. So, yeah, Atapi means what you call ardent, a great effort. This effort should not be too much effort. Because if you have too much effort in your Dhamma practice, you will have a lot of restlessness. But if you have too less effort, then you will be sluggish, lazy. So you have to balance out your energy. That balancing out your energy applies to Atapi. Sampajano means what you call clear knowledge. There are translations. I would take it this way. Now, Sati has been translated in many books, many Pali Nikaya books, in a way that you have a bare attention which brings you to the awareness. But just because you are aware, you are not having a full picture of that. Let's say now I am sitting here, I am sitting on the ground. I know I am sitting on the ground, but do I know that this ground is made of 4 elements? I'm not thinking that way. And the mic that I'm using, do I think that this mic is a mixture of 8 pure elements in the, what you call, Abhidhamma? We call them Pataviyapo Tejo Vayo, Vanna Gandha Rasa Oja. So we are not bringing that part into that. So Sampajana means a clear knowledge of that particular object in terms of 4 elements, maybe in terms of 5 aggregates. Now we are human beings, so beings, it's the 5 aggregates. For the non-beings, 4 elements. Satima, if Sati is the whole practice, why Satima is taken separately? Satima is the bare attention that brings you to awareness. Then Vinaya Loke Abhijja Domanassa, you are working on through these tools to overcome grief and what you call covetedness, greed in terms of your internal world. That is the first part. This is I call Samatha part. Second part is refrain. Now this is where the question is arising. Ajjatta Bahitta. When you practice any of these exercises, the Buddha asks, you practice through you practice through others. What does it mean? Does that mean that I have to watch how other people breathe meditation? Do the breath meditation? No. I have to understand that others also practice what you call breathing. They also breathe. So I have to understand that others also go through this phenomena. Why did Buddha brought this Bahiddha part into these exercises? Buddha knew that these practices are solo practices. When people keep engaging on these solo practices, there is a chance of, I would say, bringing some sort of Sakkaya Ditthi. That I am doing well, better than other people, I do my breath meditation, because you only look at yourself, everything. That's why the Buddha said you have to universalize this experience. Now, this is...
Whatever you experience within is also common with others.
Yes, posture meditation, you have to we can go to the Sutta if you want. Buddha has clearly said Bahiddha part is very important. Otherwise, people will get stuck in Sakkaya Ditthi, a spiritual Sakkaya Ditthi. Not a bad Sakkaya, spiritual Sakkaya Ditthi. The Buddha knew that. That's why he said you have to contemplate. Body externally means you're going to contemplate the same phenomenon with others. So, as you can see, then the vipassana part, samudaya vaya dhamma, that breath arises, breath stays, and breath goes away. And then thirdly, attikayoti va panasasati pachupatita hoti, yavadeva jnanamattaya patisatimattaya. Sati, that there is a body now, according to Kanapassana, is established in him or her to the extent necessary for the bare knowledge and continuous sati. So now that person understands. Along with this practice, sati has been established, but I need to keep repeating this practice. Finally, anissitocha viharati nacha kinchi loke upatiyati. This person will come to an understanding that I dwell independently and not cling to anything in the world. So this is the
goal, right?
that's the vipassana part of each exercise. So when you practice any satipatthana, then you must think about these two aspects. One more thing, then I will make it clear how this is going to work. Now somebody might think, what practices, why did the Buddha start this satipatthanas with the breath meditation? There is a reason. So all the satipatthana practices are interconnected around the breath, because we have to understand what is the role of anapana, just watching the breaths. How does watching a mere breath take us to Nibbana? We have that doubt. This is how it works. The Buddha says that the more you refine your breath, the calmer you are. Because whenever you are angry, whenever you are jealous, whenever you are irritated, there are some indications happening with your breath. So the Buddha is asking us to bring this solo sitting practice to our normal life. Whenever you are going wrong with your emotions, then you can notice that there are physical indications giving with each emotion. Even happiness also giving you some kind of indications through the breath. That is why the breath is the center point of this satipatthana. But you can't do the breath meditation all the time. But whenever you do your breath meditation, you have to bring the whole idea of breath. That is, whenever you are not doing the breath meditation, you are going to watching the variances of your breath. Whenever you are cooking, walking, you feel the variances. That is how you're going to bring breath meditation to your normal life. And at other times, whatever you do, whatever you are involved with, you are practicing those moments with sati. I think that sort of clear it.
I believe that this is not only for sitting and just watching the breath. So we have to make the application. That is, application is when we walk, we must be knowing walking. Even when we are dressing, we have to remember that, what we are doing. So Buddha says here, I found it as Bhante was explaining, say it's here, going forward and returning, he makes himself fully alert when looking forward, looking away, when bending, extending his limbs, when carrying out the cloak, his upper robe, his bowl, when he's eating, when he's drinking, when he's chewing, savoring, all this, everything, every moment, every action that we do in everyday life, we have to observe. So that means that what you built up by sitting, focusing on your breath, so you are applying that skill, that ability into your everyday, daily actions that you do. Isn't that so, Bhante?
This practice, we should be able to use it in our daily life too. Definitely the more serious focused practice would be done within the meditative context, but we can apply whatever training we get in our normal daily life and bringing more awareness to to our bodily movement, and bringing more awareness to our different sensations, and bringing more awareness to our general state of the mind, and asking from time to time, what is the nature of my mind? Is it calm? Is it scattered? Is it, lazy? Is it agitated? So, and then bringing more awareness to specific, mental qualities or, contents occurring in our mind. So when you bring that awareness, so we get this opportunity to discern which one is helpful that we should continue, or which one is to drop. So that way we can, on our daily life, we can have that awareness. Otherwise, we will live a life of an autopilot, right? And we we don't really live a more conscious life. Our life is simply repetition of our habits. The way we speak, the way we behave, the way we react, everything is simply a repetition of a habit. With this Satipatthana techniques, what is going to happen is that we are going to be aware of our own bodily posture, our own nature of the body, our own feelings, our own status of the mind, our own specific thoughts. And then we develop this ability to select and choose, and then gradually develop wholesome qualities. So we bring more choices, like more at conscious ability to train our personality, change our personality, and particularly to remove or weaken our unwholesome, unhealthy patterns, and then gradually develop our wholesome patterns. So, so then we become like more people who are more conscious. I usually say, Bhante, we are called Homo sapien sapien. But most people forget the second sapient part, because Homo sapient means the people who think, right? Who can think, who can rationalize, more reason power. But our species is not Homo sapien. Our current species, current humans are Homo sapien sapien. Homo sapien sapien, 2 times sapien. That means we are not only people who think, but we can also become aware that we are thinking. That is what our prefrontal cortex for. But most of the time we don't use it. We simply, whatever thoughts occur to us, we simply follow it, and we simply repeat, those patterns. We simply believe whatever thoughts occur to us, right? If we have any judgment about the person, we simply believe it without really questioning. Is it really true? So therefore, Satipatthana, if I simply say it, Bhante, so for our practical, our daily life, what these techniques are helping us to develop this ability, we are becoming aware of our own thoughts, our own thought patterns, and our own habitual patterns. So then we can become more conscious being. We can become really, truly human, Bhante. Otherwise, we are like a half human, because the last sapient part is gone. So this is helping us to become truly human, and then become aware of our own thoughts, and do not believe every thought occurs in our mind simply because it occurs here in our mind. But then we start to watch and observe, and then by doing that, gradually transform ourselves to be more kind, more wise person. And of course, Satipatthana Sutta is explaining us to be going beyond becoming a good person. But initial use would be, use it to be more conscious of our own body and mind, and on our thoughts, and then become more kind and wise person. And that will pave us that will help us to having the moral foundation, and then go beyond, and then have a more spiritual awakening along the way. Yes, Bhante.
We want to hear from you if there's anything, any questions, any concerns that you have. Maybe, Bhante's explained it enough. So still there may be certain things what you have heard, what you have learned, not addressed. So if there's anything, please feel free. There's a microphone. You can ask your questions.
Thank you very much for all this. It seems like there's a lot to remember, because, like you said, if we sort of walking, you notice you're walking, sitting, you notice sitting, changing robes. And then when do we then, the breath thing, do you remember that at the same time? If someone can explain that, it's quite difficult for us. At what point do we use the breath? Maybe after you meditate and then you know that, okay, this type of breath is an anxious breath. When do we use it? Because obviously we are not always at our breath all the time, because we are focusing on the movements and all that. Do we mix the two?
I think if I understand your question properly, you are asking that in our normal day-to-day life, how we decide where we should pay our attention to. right? Whether it's the breath, whether it's the movement, whether it's a thought, right? But of course, in order to pay our attention to anything, first we have to have a training. So in the meditative context, we become familiar with the breath, and we become familiar with our sensations, we become familiar with our status of the mind or specific contents of the mind. So that training can help. And then in our normal day-to-day life, we pay attention to what is prominent at a given time. What is prominent at that time? Is a heavy emotion is prominent, or it's a physical pain or sensation is prominent, or if it's of course, if you're trained to pay attention to breath, then you will notice the change of the breath happening when we are emotionally excited or agitated. So therefore, I would say in our day-to-day life, you can pay attention to what is prominent, but it has to be body, sensations, and the mind, the body and mind. Yeah. So that will be my understanding, Bhante. Yeah.
The day that we decided to practice, you will be training yourself. What you do is, once you train, the day is that's not the end of it, but you continue to do so every day. So that's the kind of discipline that you built up. Once you do that, maybe you apply that in everyday other activities too. Basically, we do mindful breathing. Later on, we do apply it in everyday. As I mentioned always, I most of the time I say, washing dishes, where do our minds are? So we do the application. So mindfully do it. So initially we do with the breath. We go retreat, we sit and we practice. And later on, if that is the end of it, there's no use. Your time is gone, you wasted. So, but that skill, if you do apply in your work, you can be more productive. You can continue to be productive in your practice too. So therefore, that I think ongoing thing. So basically sit and do it. Later on, you do mindfully start doing it. It's hard work. It's not an easy work, but it's but we can do it. Right. Please.
I think there are two aspects to this question. One is whether you are asking a simple mindfulness practice, or whether you are asking how you're going to practice right mindfulness into those events. Now, mindfulness means, as we all discussed, becoming a non-judgmental, observer, right? But in the right mindfulness, you may have adimokha. You may have to, decide certain things. So, on the other hand, I would think the breath meditation, it is a sitting practice. So, whenever you are doing other chores, you are doing the other Satipatthanas. There are many Satipatthanas here we are talking, posture meditation. Then even the Buddha said, Tunhi bhave, even when you don't talk to other people. You know why you don't talk to other people. I'm not referring to those people who get mad at each other and then they don't talk. They want to break the ice. But the Buddha said, even when you don't talk, you have to understand why you don't talk. Even when you stretch your hand, abhikkante. Then when you extend your limbs, pasarite alokite, when you abhikkante, patikkante, when you look ahead, right? So whatever the events, whatever the things that you are doing in your life, there are certain Satipatthanas you have to bring onto those events. Right? So breath meditation is one that you do while you are sitting, as Bhante said, when you are on a retreat, when you are at home. But other times you can consider bringing, like you can see here, postures, then activities, then feelings, mind, right? All these can be applied according to Satipatthana practice. And also you have to understand there is a way how you have to practice Satipatthana. Just breathing is not enough. Just watching the breath is not enough. So you have to do that according to definition aspect and refrain aspect. Right? So that is how you're going to bring in the ethical aspect to the Satipatthana practices. These might be a little technical, but it is important to have some technicality, but you can slowly incorporate these Satipatthanas whenever your actions work.
Can these practices actually help to slow down dementia? Can these practices actually help to slow down dementia? Because I noticed there are more and more people getting dementia. I know someone personally, the mom, the brain prefrontal cortex has shrunk significantly. So if we could, I mean, I can't really help so much, but I would like to know if such practices also, if I can start now, I can also slow down that aspect of aging. Yeah.
Dementia means an inflammation on the neurochemicals. So it's a chronic thing that is happening. But the mindfulness can help probably to bring back certain awareness. There are certain practices, like I have seen some senior homes, nursing homes, they are bringing how to eat. Probably they are using a spoon, and then how you going to bring that spoon near the mouth. That kind of small practices, I think they could be coming from these Satipatthana practices. They might not go to Vipassana Samatha areas, but still that kind of awareness can be garnered, generated by simple ways of Satipatthana practice.
Of course, we are not medical experts to to give a definitive answer to that. But I have my personal experience of one of the most senior monks, Theravada monks in the world today, our Bhante Gunaratana. And Bhante Gunaratana, we call Bhante Ji, and he just celebrated his 96th birthday last December 7th. So I went to visit him on his birthday, and he released another book on his 96th birthday. And then his memory is so sharp, and he remember exactly when we first met, and he remember all the names of the visiting monks, and remember exactly every part of the the monastery. Okay, this chair was brought by that person on that day, and he can tell all the stories of everything in the monastery. So his memory is sharper than us. So that is my experience, Bhante. So I have met so many other people who are in their 90s. I have visited, old age homes, and have seen the people. So that is only my personal experience. So as you said, maybe we had to start it well before we are into our 90s. So maybe that the only thing I can say, the sharpness and the clear memory of Bhante Ji should be from his own practice of meditation for many, many years. So it's a good for us to start well before we age. So you have one more reasons to meditate, and you will have less chance to get dementia. Yes.
Before we come to that stage, maybe the one that we have to start practicing.
Yeah.
So improve our skill of memorizing or keeping our memory alive. Yes.
Good evening, Bhante. I would like to ask from the meditation perspective, in the breathing meditation, there are 16 parts of it. So the first 10 part is also related to Satipatthana. Is it right? Thank you.
All right. So there is another sutta in the Majjhima Nikaya called Anapanasati, wherein the Buddha has blended all the 4 Satipatthanas into one practice. This practice is Anapanasati, but it is not the Anapanasati practice that you see the Satipatthana exactly. It's a very, I would say, very expanded practice of the 4 Satipatthanas. So he's bringing Kaya, Vedana, Chitta, Dhamma in different other perspectives. So what I can say is that there is a good news. So if you want to hit all the Satipatthanas in one meditation, that is Anapanasati.
Yeah, breath meditation.
But the ways and means how Anapanasati has to be practiced is a little deeper than the context of Anapanasati that we see in the Satipatthana Sutta. So in that sutta he says, So this is what I'm going to show. This is why I said breath meditation can help you to practice all the Satipatthanas. They are interconnected. That means when you practice breath meditation, you will see Kaya Sankharas. What are the Kaya Sankharas? Asasa, Passasa, breathing in and breathing out. Then I think they have Chitta Sankharas too, which means Vitakka, Sanya and Vedana. Right? So, Anapanasati Sutta mentions that there are 16 stages that you can incorporate. Each Satipatthana carries 4 stages. So, we call it a tetrad. So, there are 4 tetrads which has 16 stages. So, if you can level up, if you can really level up your Anapanasati according to how the Buddha mentions in the Anapanasati Sutta, you can cover up all the 4 Satipatthanas. And it will bring you to Nibbana, finally. That is what we see in the Anapanasati Sutta.
Satipatthana Sutta, I think what we talk about there is, at the end it says, this is a direct path for purification of beings, for the overcoming of sorrows and lamentation, for the disappearance of pain, distress, for the attainment of the right method for the realization of unbinding. In other words, the 4 frames of references, thus was it said, and its reference to the liberation, freedom. But that's for the deeper dedicated practitioners. But as we mentioned in the flyer, how can utilize for this of course, that's what we are discussing. So you can give one more advice based on their questions so far.
These 4 foundations, mindfulness, will bring us all the way to the full enlightenment. But as we discussed before, also this practice can help in so many ways in our present lives, and of course, gradually guiding us towards that direction. But one important way, Bhante, this can help us is actually to help us to reduce our ego. Because usually we have an image of ourselves, and then we don't really understand what is really happening here. But when we look into our body and look into our feelings and our mind and our mental qualities, and we begin to see this is a complex process happening here. And then nothing is permanent. So usually we have perversions, we have misunderstanding about our own existence. One misunderstanding is that we tend to take many things as attractive. We call subha, and we tend to take many things as permanent, and we tend to take many things as satisfying, sukha, and we tend to take many things as belonging to us, like self. So these are called 4 distortions, or vipallasa, or 4 misunderstanding, taking things as attractive, permanent, satisfying, and belong to me. And when you contemplate on these 4 foundations, mindfulness, you begin to realize that actually, even what we tend to take as attractive is different. We tend to take bodies as attractive. We have an image of bodies, human bodies. So we develop desire and attractiveness because of our mental image of the bodies. But if you deeply contemplate the actual nature of the body, we realize that it's a living organism. It's nothing to nothing to be attractive, and we have to take care of it, and we have to be respectful towards it and be grateful to it. So we overcome that, that attractiveness. And then, of course, we tend to think our feelings as satisfying. But when you understand the impermanence of these, feelings, we know that nothing is going to remain. And in that way, we also tend to take our mind as permanent. We understand it's changing from different moods to other moods. We realize that it's not permanent. And we tend to think that our thoughts are ours. That is why we believe them. But when we more analyze and more explore about it, you realize that they are actually naturally occurring due to causes and conditions. So we can actually get rid of our wrong understanding, misunderstanding, and helping us to remove our ego, and as Bhante mentioned, that to help us to reduce our greed and hatred, our extreme forms of greed and extreme forms of hatred, and helping us to live in the world in more equanimous way. We approach the world with an equanimous way. So that way, actually, we will have a more peaceful life because of the removal of this misunderstanding and reducing of our ego and learning to relate to everything in our experience, not in the sense of attaching too much, and also not in the sense of being resentful or refusing or rejecting, but with more equanimous attitude. So we will be able to live in the world peacefully. Yes.
Today's topic is actually Satipatthana, a universal tool. The reason why I bring this subject up again, or the topic up again, is because what we've been speaking generally is about how to practice spiritual Satipatthana, to basically cultivate our own minds in the spiritual practice. But in the corporate world, in the normal daily lives, like what the sister mentioned, if you work in a very hostile and stressed environment, how do you practice Satipatthana? I'll bring this example because I used to work in an advertising agency. I had 10 clients that I had to be servicing simultaneously on a given day. So you get phone calls, you get emails, you get faxes, you get bosses down your throat, And how do you practice Satipatthana then?
According to what we understand from the Satipatthana Sutta, it is not only catered to a spiritual realm. It is inclusive of everything. Now, as you mentioned that you had to deal with 10 clients at the same time, then I think you are not going to practice the breath meditation at that time. You are going to practice the Sampajanya. As you can see, Sampajanya has different things. I would say, whatever you talk, how you're going to interact with them. So you can bring in a certain awareness without getting probably, I would say, overwhelmed with the service culture that you are engaged with those people, right? So there are certain Satipatthanas that are going to be helpful in those particular moments of the corporate world cultures. So we don't have to necessarily pick up Anapanasati at that point, right? Because either you might like the experience with the clients, either you might dislike the experience with the clients. So that's why I brought up this thing. I wanted to say that we have likes and dislikes in our life. Now, I would like, let's say you might like to eat a certain food. You might like a certain person, right? It shouldn't be bad. But if you bring these likes and dislikes onto a different level, lobha and dosa, that could be a concerning point in your life. But if you bring them to the next level, abhijja and vyapada, these are intensification of lobha and dosa, right? So I think if you can manage those corporate moments with simple techniques that are relevant to that particular activity, Satipatthana Sutta is always helpful, always supportive to overcome lobha and dosa in those moments. So I don't think that Satipatthana is a standalone practice that you have to only practice just to attain Nibbana. So yeah, it works.
Yeah, the one way we can help, Satipatthana can help us in non-spiritual context is actually to control our reaction. Because, whenever we are in a stressful situation or, any demanding situation, our reaction is automatic. It is, it's not thoughtful. It's not selected. We react out of fear. We react out of defense. And then those reaction is actually very automatic and habitual. But when we learn this Satipatthana to observe our own mind and our body, and then we can discern the urge to react in a usual, habitual way, and then we can become aware of it, and then maybe bring the memory. Previously, I reacted like this. I shouted at this person, and then was it helpful last time? So we use your previous memories of your habitual reactions and understand what kind of consequences you had as a result of that. And so you use that memory, and then you become aware of this urge, this habitual tendency is going to, come out from you. With the training of mindfulness, you become aware of it. You use your previous memory as a lesson, as a guidance, and then you decide, okay, this is not going to be wise, although I feel like shouting at, this is not going to work. And maybe take a deep breath and relax, and then try to use different response. So I think we can change our automatic reaction through this training, and then purposely, wisely choose the best response to that situation. It's not like not responding at all. We will still say something, we will still do something, but with more awareness, more choice, more wisdom. So I think I would say that we will be able to respond rather than habitual reacting to the situations. Yeah.
I believe as a spiritual practitioner, once you get started, so what we do is we have our application with understanding. We already had started to change ourselves. With that change, you can use these skills to change those environments, whatever daily life you are, experiencing. So therefore, mindfulness is going to be very helpful tool. It's a universal, as we said, universal tool. So now we have to choose it, where to use it, where not to use it. If you're mindfully using it, definitely you have to have determination, otherwise no point. The day that you started to practice mindfulness, so you are going to apply it in everyday life. It is not just for the weekend. You are not only a weekend person. You should be applied into next day too. The Monday, you should apply the skill that you built up. Then you can definitely be successful in applying your spiritual strength into your daily activities. I think you can be a very successful person. So you started with that change and determination, and also patience, compassion. These qualities you have to have in your daily life. You're just not, you're building up into the temple, the Buddhist day or spiritual day. So when we mindfully do this, mindfulness is key, so you have it, then you can be a very successful person in every day. So you built up your change. Thank you. Yes.
Another way that we can put this into the non-spiritual context is the reflection. It is a larger, broader context of Buddhist practice, reflection. The Buddha always asks us to reflect. We call it, we can say paccavekkhana or manasikara, yoniso manasikara. Now, the Buddha says in many suttas, like Ambalattika Rahulwada Sutta to his son Rahula, paccavekkhitva kaya kamma kātabba. That means before you think, reflect before you think. Reflect during you think. Reflect after you think. Reflect before talk. Reflect during talk. Reflect after you talk. Reflect before you act. Reflect during you act. Reflect after you act. So this framework need to be incorporated into Satipatthana. If you say Satipatthana is a second layer of like fine-tuning your practice, then reflection brings you to Satipatthanas. Because this is a very interesting, because even when you want to become a Sotapanna, you need the Yoniso Manasikara. Even when you want to practice the Noble Eightfold Path, you need the wise attention, Yoniso Manasikara. So that means reflection is the key that will help you to cover up, deal with the work settings and all that. So probably you could see Satipatthana could be a very deepened practice, but you need other practices to bring in to Satipatthana just to keep them going. So reflection is the key, as you can see in many places. Yeah. Let's say you are working with 10 clients, they are very aggressive, and they are asking, give it to me and all that. So you are going to reflect how you're going to act. As Bhante said, we are always on autopilot, right? That is the nature of the mind. So probably we have to form some habits to cut down our automatic thinking, right? So each time when we act, when we think, when we speak, talk, let's bring in reflection so that we can easily tap into Satipatthana, right? It's like a bridge to Satipatthana.
I think 31 body parts, or 31 body parts, contemplate 32 body parts, 31 body parts contemplation is quite universal across different schools of Buddhism. But from my experience, I find it quite difficult in a retreat when the sutta is read out about repulsiveness of body parts. It's very hard to continue because on one end, we express gratitude to our body for allowing us to practice Dhamma, for example. And then on the other end, we are saying the body is dirty. I mean, I don't have attachment to the body, but I just find it a bit difficult to take the instruction in a retreat.
I think if I understand your question, you're saying that contemplation on 31 or 32 body parts is a difficult practice to do, right? Because you are almost like, looking at your body as dirty. Is your question why is this a difficult practice?
Actually, I find it difficult to follow the instruction. I understand and accept that the body is dirty.
Not necessarily. Let's say, yeah, okay, so then?
But I just find it, it's difficult to follow, the instruction. For example, when we do walking meditation, we can follow easily the instruction to lift, step down.
You mean it is difficult to feel the internal parts of the body?
No, it's difficult to hear the instruction.
All the different 32 parts of the body. Yeah.
Especially during a retreat when the sutta is read out on that part.
Yeah, I think I'm glad that you're honestly sharing with us that it is really difficult, and definitely it has to be difficult because this is actually breaking our wrong images of our body. And this is really challenging us for Bhante when you teach this meditation to Western people, because body has been glorified and body has been taken as such a idealized thing. So when you talk about 32 parts, it definitely many people reject it, and many people cannot do it. So it's good you recognize that actually it's a difficult practice because it's really attacking our the image of the body. Actually, what Buddha has done there is actually to understand what truly this whole body is. Because we have an image of our body, nobody knows what is this body. And whenever you see a photograph of ourselves and any other image, so we simply create this mental image of the body. So what is really here is completely different. So with this 31 or 32 parts of the body, what we are doing is actually, we truly understand what is really here. And this is like a community. Although we call it one body, it's a community, right? There are so many organs, so many systems that they are working in harmony with each other. There's a whole organism at work here. So you become an accurate picture of what is really happening here. And so it is not something, it's not exactly how we view the body. We view the body based on our previous images that we constructed through media, through socializations, and it's not necessarily a correct image of the body. The 32 parts of the body is giving us an accurate picture of the body. It's not something to be it's not even something to be like feel dirty. Again in dirty, and again also the concepts. But this is simply organism. And this is simply a community. And you have to be respectful and grateful and take care of it. But it's not something to be, it's not an object of desire. It's not an object of desire. It's not something we have to like throw it away. But it's something to be taken care of well and be grateful, but use it to achieve higher levels of spiritual development. So I think 32 parts of the body is definitely challenging us. It's really a challenging practice. It's really attacking our wrong image of the body. So take it as a challenge, and it's good that we accept that and then take it as a challenge, but don't stop it because it is challenging. We really need to go beyond our comfort zones. We really need to go beyond our, deep-seated wrong images. It's helping us to have an accurate, understanding of the body. Not the image of the body, but what is really here.
Sister Eva's question raises several concerns. One thing is, I understand this is why you need to have a teacher, right? And there is no such thing that you need to practice all Satipatthanas. This is the first thing. Because if you pick up the last one, nine charnel ground contemplation, who is going to see a dead body left on a cemetery? None of us see that. That means we don't have to. So I found somebody who told me, Bhante, since few months I've been practicing a meditation, but now I hate my family. So can you give me an advice? You tell me what's the meditation you've been practicing. So I've been practicing Anapanasati. Suddenly a Bhante told me practice Asubha. Asubha, 32 or 31 body parts. Ever since I developed a certain disliking towards my family, I dearly, cordially welcome them, be with them, because I see them, kidneys, the bone marrows, right? So then I said, all right, you change your practice, that is the solution. But I would say, this Asubha meditation, I would say, anatomical parts of the body, is specifically meant for those people who have a strong karma. Lust. Strong lust. Just to sort of slow down, just to sort of reduce that karma, this is recommended. Who is going to recommend? A teacher. So don't just practice just because you see things from online. You just read the books. Okay, I'm going to practice. So there are a couple of things. I don't feel surprised that people cannot practice. Good that they cannot practice, because in a way, it might not be your meditation. So there are so many meditations you can practice. You pick one meditation from Kayanupassana. Then definitely you have to practice Vedananupassana. Definitely you pick up certain thoughts of Chittanupassana. Pick up then certain practices of Dhammanupassana. You don't have to practice each exercises out of these. But if you have a strong attachment, strong lust, then I think a teacher will see, it's like a antibiotic. A doctor will only prescribe you if other medications won't work. But you are under surveillance. Doctor will say 3 months, stop it. Asubha is silent. But Anapanasati, Iriyapata, Sampajana, they are good. They have no issues. I mean, I'm not saying there are issues. That practice has to be recommended by an experienced teacher by thoroughly understanding your mental structure. All right.
Pertaining to my first earlier question, so you're saying that Satipatthana is also Anapanasati practice, and likewise, Anapanasati practice is also Satipatthana. So I would like to clarify. So though we say Anapanasati, which is breathe in and breathe out, so it means that for the first time, at initial state, we only use the breathe in, breathe out to stabilize our mind. After once we stabilize our mind, we have to move to bodily, mentally, and mind, and then Dhamma. That means that initially we're just focus on breathe in, breathe out to stabilize the mind, calm the mind. After that, we need to contemplate the bodily, mentally, and mind, and we have to liberate the mind and then contemplate the Dhamma. So it means that the breathe in, breathe out later on will be secondary, not for main focus. In summary, when we practice Anapanasati, though at first we breathe in, breathe out, our focus, the main focus is breathe in, breathe out. But once we are able to stabilize the mind, still the mind, we have to move on. The breathe in, breathe out will be secondary, not the main focus. Our focus will be contemplating on the stillness of the mind, then gladden the mind, make the mind delighted, happy. Then we contemplate on the Dhamma, which is impermanence, abandonment, cessation. Correct? My question is it correct that at first the focus will be in breath, out breath. Later on, the in breath, out breath will not be the primary focus. Thank you.
Yes. So you are referring to your earlier question again. How does the focus shift from breathing on to others? Actually, if you look at this levelish, the expanded, heightened level of Anapanasati, you are still having the focus on breathing, but in the first place, under the first tetrad, you are more focused on the breath, but then slowly extending your awareness towards certain other dhammas. Now, one dhamma is what you call experience in the whole body. This is pasambhayang kaya sankhara, right? Sabbakaya patisangvedi. The second one is pasambhayang kaya sankhara. Right. So then while you are maintaining your breath, you are also focusing on certain important elements of Satipatthanas. Now under the Vedananupassana tetrad, you will see Piti, Sukha, right? And then what you call mental activities. We have another couple of terms for that.
As she mentioned, Bhante, when you establish your awareness in the breath, then of course we will have other experiences, which some experiences are related to Vedana, like Piti and Sukha. They are aspects of Vedana. So then you contemplate on that. And also you can pretend the arising and passing away of that. And the more you stabilize, and then you start to feel, sanya and like a deeper state of the mind. So breath is more like it's like a background. You start with that, and once you stabilize it, and you get other experiences which are related to the other foundations of mindfulness. So use the breath as an entrance, and then you keep it in the background, and then you move into other experiences occurring. And then we focus on those things, and they're arising and passing away, and then train ourselves to be equanimous in whatever experience is occurring, and mainly at the end, focusing more on the impermanence. So breath is an entry point, and then you go to other experiences.
Yeah. But at the same time, breath has to be there, that focus. That's the main focus. And then you are taking turns on the other, aspects.
Bhante, both of you, thank you very much for helping to this evening to continue and conduct this Dhamma dialogue under the Dhammadana series of Buddhist Maha Vihara. So now it's time thank you for all of you who participated here, and also for asking questions. So those are the contributions from them. So let us do the dedication of merit now. Thinking always our management committee, they do organize all these things. Thinking of late chief who brought us this luxury of having Dhamma, learning Dhamma. So reflecting, still we pay the gratitude to him. So paying gratitude, they all organized this. So let us do the dedication. May all our Venerable Chief, as well as all the other past members who are not here anymore, may they all rejoice this wholesomeness, and may they all be well, happy and peaceful wherever they may be. May they all attain ultimate bliss of Nibbana. And may all devas who protect the world and sasana, may all of they rejoice this merit. May all the devas attain ultimate bliss of Nibbana. And may all our brothers and sisters who participate in the management committee, all of them, may they have strength and courage to continue providing these Dhamma services to the our communities, people who are connected with the Mahavihara. May they all be well. May they all have that good strength to provide this. And may the blessings of Buddha, Dhamma and the Sangha be with them always. So let us recite the Gatha. Bhante.
Ñātīnaṁ hotu sukhitā hontu ñātayo Idammi ñātīnaṁ hotu sukhitā hontu ñātayo Idammi ñātīnaṁ hotu sukhitā hontu ñātayo Devo Asaddha ca bhummatta devānaga mahindika puññaṃ anumoditva chiraṃ rakkhantu loka sāsanam Bhavatu sabba mangalam rakkhantu sabba devata sabba buddhanubhavena sada sothi bhavantu te bhavatu sabba mangalam rakkhantu sabba devata sabba dhammanubhavena sada sothi bhavantu te bhavatu sabba mangalam rakkhantu sabba devata sabba sanghanubhavena sada sothi bhavantu te Abhivadana silissa niccang vaddhapachayino cattaro dhamma vaddhanti ayuvanno sukhang balang yurārogya sampatti sagga sampatti mevaca ato nibbāna sampatti iminate samicchatu